I've worked for the Church of England for 25 years in the whole area of social justice and community engagement. That's a job I finished at the end of 2020, beginning of 2021. And one of the things I've been doing since is working on a very part-time basis with Citizens UK nationally they've given me a very grand title, which Citizens tends to do, which is Mission Theologian in Residence. But what that means is it's about enabling strategic partnerships, more strategic partnerships between dioceses, Methodist districts, other denominations and citizens, but also, and probably more importantly, to just build a community of practice amongst people who are involved in community organising through their churches of any kind. And we have regular online learning Thursdays where we look at different themes to do with that. So that's really exciting because, as I'll say a bit more later, to me, community organising is a spiritual practice or a collection of spiritual practices. I wanted to just talk about it, and the overall philosophy, of course, is, if we go back to the Nehemiah passage, where's the bit where it says, Sandra, you'll know because you picked up, where does it say about being powerless? Sorry? Yes, we are powerless. So, all the situations where, as one person, or as one family, or as one church, or you feel powerless. And I think in our society that's becoming, as we become more fragmented and isolated from each other, we more and more often feel powerless, and the structures of our society are such that we're kind of caught between other things that are powerful. So the government, the state, is powerful, and all of the different ways in which that works its way down to the local authority level. And the market, business, the whole economic system is now so powerful it goes beyond our nation and our nation state. So, you've got those two things are really powerful and they affect every aspect of our lives. And community organising is about saying there's a third bit, there's a third sector, which I heard at community organising training people have decided to call the first sector. That was Sandra maybe who told me that. Let's call it the first sector because it's the most important sector. It's all the other bits where we connect together as human beings. Let's organise that. That's all it's about. So let's find a way of organising that so that we have power. Now, I just wanted to share a bit of my story because I think I said that I grew up as a Methodist where social justice and social action was just part of what you did. As a Christian, that was part of my identity. And I got very passionate about social justice issues fairly early on. And I studied theology, and then my whole career has been Christian social justice. And I had tried, there's so many different models for working at community engagement, you'll know them all, community engagement, social action, where you're basically picking up the results of injustice, feeding people, housing people, dealing with homelessness, dealing with poverty, that the root causes of all those things feels like, where do you go? This is Mary Sadler. I'm going to write to the Prime Minister. But then you think, well, I'm going to write to my MP, I'm going to write to my Prime Minister, I'm going to collect signatures for a petition, I'm going to go on a march. The number of marches I went on in the 80s, I can't tell you. And you think, this is so demoralising because nothing seems to change anything. And then I work with churches, particularly in the Church of England, for 25 years, just trying to find different ways in which there was to be some way that we can make change which wasn't just about, as Desmond Tutu would say, picking people up out of the river when they've been pushed in further upstream. And then for a whole complex combination of reasons that I won't bore you with, I was sent on a community or 6-day training with Citizens UK. Now, the first thing I noticed, after 25 years in the Church of England, in Oxford Diocese, okay, so it's a certain demographic, is that I was in the room with 35 people of all ages, people on the 6-day training, and a huge diverse range of people, like we are here. And I thought, this is good. Oxford Diocesan Synod doesn't look like this. And then I began to hear people's stories, and to be honest, I was a little bit jealous. Because I thought, here are people, particularly in their 20s and 30s, who have got access to this mechanism that I soon discovered. It's a mechanism for making change. I thought, I wish I'd had this when I was younger. Of course, have it now. So, and it's been developing community organising in the UK for about 30 years, and it hadn't kind of crossed my radar before then. So, what's different? And that's what's different this evening. We're thinking theologically. We're thinking about how we're engaging as people who are people of faith. A key way for me in which it was different was who is a leader. Laura, you've been highlighted this evening, and you haven't wanted to speak, but who is a leader is not the same as who is a leader in other social justice movements. Who is a leader is the person who knows the most about the issue you're trying to change, because they're the people that are most affected by it. And a leader is someone who has a following. As Becky said, you have a following, lots of people respect you in your community. That's what makes you a leader. The Church of England, I was used to, well, the bishop's the leader, or the area dean's the leader, or the archdeacon's the leader. But what do they really know about the lives of the people, even within their own denomination? Never mind in the communities that those denominations are supposed to, that their churches are supposed to serve. Or at best do serve, to be fair. But I think, but to me, being a Methodist by birth and working in the Church of England, what I notice is Church of England likes to be in charge. Right? It likes to do the change that it thinks people ought to want. Or what it thinks are the changes that need to happen. I'll see some nods. If you listen, you may discover that the changes people want are not at all anything that you could imagine. There's an example in Wales, there's another video about this on the Citizens website. Young Muslim kids in Cardiff, a listening campaign, Sandra's nodding, what do they want to see changed? Now, if you'd said to the local vicar, what do you think the Muslim young people, or even probably an imam, I don't know, what do you think they want changed? Well, when you listen, actually, we can't go out with our friends because none of the restaurants in this bit of Cardiff serve halal chicken. They wanted to go to Nando's with their mates. So they had a whole campaign. We want Nando's in Cardiff to serve halal chicken, so we can go out with our friends. Now, who'd have thought, right? And they organised themselves, and they had a campaign, and they ended up going to see the head of Nando's in wherever, and they said, look, you're being racist. You're being racist against Welsh people because all the other Nando's in the country, or a lot of them, have halal food and you don't. So, a bit of humour, agitation, they won. So that's a key thing that I think is for me was different, having had a whole history of Christian social justice. I don't want to talk for too long because I need opportunity. And I can talk like this forever, but I just want to pick up two key words that I think have emerged this evening. Trust and hope. I did some work around social justice and evangelism a while back through a group I'm part of. And what emerged was that authentic evangelism has to be built on trust and hope. And I'm thinking that's interesting because we've talked this evening a bit about how congregations can grow through engagement with community organising. And I think that's because we have to be trusted partners in community if we're part of faith groups. And we have to be part, to enable that, we have to earn the trust. That's not a one-off. It's by engaging with people day in, day out, week in, year out. The stories we've heard this evening go back years, right? So you're not just organising around one issue and then you disband again. You're building relationships that last, and you're building relationships with other organisations and people in those organisations across a broad, and the broader the better. Because if a broad range of people agree something needs to change, that's power. And if you can show that a lot of people want to change, that's power. So that's just a bit, but I think it's about vocation and calling and leadership and how we find out what's, Laura, what you discovered, what you were being called to, and how you could be part of what you were being called to. It's about growing in our own faith and discipleship. It can be about setting the stage for evangelism, and sharing the story of God with people. And it develops us as churches as well as engaging us with the community. So all these things you've learned can be done within churches. Because we all think we know each other in our churches, don't we? Oh yeah, I see them every week and we have coffee together. But actually, then you discover when you actually talk, or you do a one-to-one with members of your own congregation that you really didn't know people very well at all. And as soon as you build those relationships within, then it strengthens you and brings you people in. So I would encourage you to engage more with, if you came with questions about community organising, I'm going to hand over again to my colleagues in Leeds in a minute, because there's so much experience in the room, so many opportunities to get engaged, and so much potential for that engagement with issues of power, issues of anger, issues of leadership, issues of difference, to build hope and to build trust. That, I think this is really the way in which, in our time, in this place, the question of how can things change, to me this is becoming the key way across the country, actually, in making real change, being part of change that creates more change, and in which our communities can be transformed.